The Chicago Bulls offseason just took a wild turn yesterday with the announcement of Drew Dalman's retirement. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what that does now for the Chicago Bears salary cap. And on top of that, 3 free agent replacements possible for Drew Dalman. We're also going to take a look at Ryan Poles and why this offseason just took a new complexity. So now he's going to have to make even more splashes. All that plus Maxx Crosby's preferred destination being the Chicago Bears. All that and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And so the Chicago Bears find themselves in the market for a new center after the retirement of Drew Dalman. This was completely unexpected. At 27 years old, only 5 years in the NFL, Drew Dalman decided to retire. He spent 4 years with the Atlanta Falcons, then came over to the Chicago Bears last year, was a huge part of the offensive line turnaround that the Chicago Bears had last year. The revamped offensive line protected Caleb Williams, the league leading, right? Well, we also had one of the best rushing attacks in football. And so now the question becomes about what's next for the Bears. And it's a twofold question, right? One of the questions is all right, who can the Bears get to replace Drew Dalman? We'll talk a little bit about that, but also what does this mean for the salary cap situation for it? So according to Over the Cap, with Drew Dalman retiring, it frees up about $10 million in salary for the Chicago Bears, with $4 million in dead money for the remaining $6 million prorated signing bonus that he was paid in 2025. According to this as well, Drew Dalman will also forfeit $9.5 million of his salary guarantee for 2026. That's clear with the retirement. And Over the Cap also notes that Chicago can get back $2 million in bonus money in 2026 and $2 million in 2027 as well. Now, that's a can. They don't necessarily have to request that back, but we will see if they decide to do that. So while the Chicago Bears do save $10 million in cap space, now we have a major hole in our offensive line. The center is a hugely important role. We've talked about it many times. It's the only person that's guaranteed to touch the ball basically on every play is the center, right? And so, with that said, now they have to fill that gap in the middle. We'll talk about how they can fill that here coming up, but they're going to probably look to add a veteran center. Via what we've heard, a veteran center is probably going to be there, right? And we'll talk about those candidates when it comes down to that. But the Bears right now we're $3 million under the salary cap. So there's that a benefit of that as well. And we have a number of moves that we can make as well between restructurings, cutting, trading, that we can open up even more money. But this is a major, major gap now for the Chicago Bears, right? This isn't something that you just look at and you're just like, oh, okay. I know people have mentioned Luke Newman and if it's possibly going to be ready to step into that starting role. I don't think so. And I think with the Bears already setting up meetings with centers, it's a huge sign that the Bears don't think that Luke Newman is ready, or they just don't want to risk it, right? Maybe Luke Newman is ready to make that next step, but why risk it if you have some veterans that you can go out there and get? Keep in mind, the Bears are no longer at the place of rebuilding. We are at the place now of contending. That's what we're trying to do. And so because of that, you're going to want to fill that in with something that you're going to be sure. You already have a left tackle hole that you're going to have to fill probably in the draft. I can completely see, especially because now the salary of Drew Dalman's gone, that they're going to want to replace that with a new starting caliber center there. Ryan Bates is a guy that's still technically on the roster. I don't expect him to be, so that's not going to happen. Luke Newman's probably not going to happen there either. This is going to go now to the Bears having to pivot into free agency to try to find their next starting caliber center. And the center market is a market that is always booming. So if Ryan Poles is going to want to strike there, it's not going to be easy. And he's going to have to, much like people didn't expect the Bears to get the best center on the market last year in Drew Dalman. People didn't expect that, but Ryan Poles was able to get it done. So what Poles is going to have to do now is have another offseason where he does something unexpected and maybe signs one of, if not the best centers on the market to get that done. So the cap space, it frees up there a little bit, right? So now the Bears are under the salary cap. Keep in mind, we started off this offseason about $5 million over the salary cap. We're now $3 million under the salary cap with other cost-saving moves to happen here. Now, the question that this becomes about as well is, what does this mean for the edge, right? And I've been kind of more and more leaning towards the fact that the Bears are probably going to address the edge in the draft rather than go after a big-time edge, even despite the rumors around Maxx Crosby. We got more on that here on this show as well. We'll talk about that because there's been an outlet that said that Maxx Crosby's preferred destination is the Chicago Bears. Doesn't mean he's going to get there, but we'll talk about that. But who are the centers then that the Bears can come in? There are 3 free agent centers that all fit exactly what the Bears need. They fit the mold of Dan Roushar. They have experience. Of course, the number 1 center on the market is Tyler Linderbaum. Now, this is the top free agent center on the market heading into free agency. He was a first-round pick in 2022. He was a four-year starter. He, with that, he had 3 Pro Bowl nods. On top of that as well, he graded out as the 5th best center in the league, Pro Football Focus. Not to say that PFF grades are the end-all, be-all. He was actually a few spots ahead of Drew Dalman in regards to that. Now, we've heard that the Baltimore Ravens would like to retain the 3-time Pro Bowler as well, but it's going to have to be a record-setting deal. Now, for that, right, the Bears are going to have to give a huge payday to Linderbaum if they want him to be their Drew Dalman replacement. It's probably going to be even more than what Drew Dalman was making even as the number 1 center on the market last year, right? And because of the bidding war that's expected to be there for Linderbaum, the Bears are going to have to bid out other teams in regards to that. According to Albert Breer, right, the Bears have already sniffed around Linderbaum as well, so they're at least considering the option. The question then becomes about would they be willing to pay what it takes to bring Linderbaum in here to the Chicago Bears? And that is an answer that we don't have the question that we don't have the answer for, right? Now, the question that also is there is that if you pay that money to a center like Linderbaum, it's almost all but guaranteed that you're not going to go after Trey Hendrickson or Maxx Crosby. It's just probably guaranteed. You're probably not going to gut your roster needed as much to fit both those contracts. But hey, the next guy is Tyler Biadasz, and Biadasz, I believe is how you pronounce it. Biadasz. When you look at it, Biadasz is available to sign right now. He's a guy that you don't have to. He was released by the Washington Commanders as a cap casualty. He is a former 4th-round pick in 2022. He spent his first 4 seasons with the Dallas Cowboys, where he was a Pro Bowler in 2022 as well. The last 2 seasons, he's been with the Washington Commanders, and he's been a center for Jaden Daniels. Now, we know that not to say that I don't think Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels are the same quarterback, but quarterbacks that are more mobile. We know that offensive lines for more mobile quarterbacks and quarterbacks that can break out with their legs, and the way that Caleb Williams likes to escape out the pocket and extend plays, you having a center that has some familiarity with that would be interesting. Biadasz as well graded out as the 12th best center according to Pro Football Focus, which actually was a few spots behind Drew Dalman. He was the 12th best run blocker last season as far as of centers and the 15th best pass blocker. So Biadasz is a guy that really brings a lot of what the Chicago Bears would need at that position. According to Ian Rappaport as well, they are hosting him for a visit this week. So the Bears have wasted no time to go out there and try to get that guy and to see if he can come in here and he has an interest in being the Chicago Bears starting center. The next guy that the Bears could bring in as well is Connor McGovern. Now, this is a guy as well that he's a really good center. He's going to be highly sought after, much like Linderbaum as well. He's a former 3rd-round pick in 2019. He spent time with the Dallas Cowboys as well, signed with the Buffalo Bills. He's been their starting center since 2024. He was the 10th best center, Pro Football Focus. He's a solid all-around blocker in both pass protection and the run game. He earned top 15 as far as PFF grades in both the run game and pass blocking, which is really important for the Chicago Bears. They're going to want to keep up that rushing attack that they had last year as well. And oh, by the way, McGovern has not allowed a sack since 2023. Now, he's not going to come cheap. Of all these options that we're talking about, Biadasz may be the one that is the cheapest to get. McGovern and Linderbaum are going to both have pretty hefty contract requirements when it comes down to it, but these are guys that can all help the Chicago Bears. And I love that the Bears have all shown interest in basically all these guys to some degree as well. Ryan Poles seems to be really on top of this. I wouldn't be surprised if, maybe even the Bears front office knew about this maybe some days, maybe even a week before, it was officially announced so that they can prepare for it. But Ryan Poles is going to have to get to work. And we already knew this was an offseason where the work that Ryan Poles is going to have to do was hugely important. And so now, needing to replace your starting caliber center, a center that you had under contract for 2 more years that was only 27 years old, there's just no way around it. This was not expected, But how front offices deal with unexpected things, how they pivot is as important as anything. You have to be willing to be mobile. You have to be willing to live on the fly because the way that the NFL works, things come at you unexpected and they come really fast. And so how Ryan Poles deals with this and manages this is going to be really important in telling for how well this offseason is going to go. So it went from an offseason where we expected it, and I said it before that it could be a pretty straightforward offseason for the Chicago Bears. Now we go into an offseason where now you're dealing with your already first unexpected thing. And now you got to see what's going to happen with that and what the next steps are after that. So let me know what you guys think down below. When you hear these three guys, again, Tyler Linderbaum, Tyler Biadasz, and then also Connor McGovern. When you hear these guys, who do you think stands out most to you when you factor in the money cost and also what the Bears need out of these guys? These are probably three of the best guys that you can get out on the market. Now, I know I talked about a center yesterday when I talked about draft prospects that stood out. Maybe the Bears make a little pivot towards that as well, but I think they're going to try to target a veteran here first for that starting center. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. But from that to a player that all Bears fans have talked about in some shape, form, or fashion, whether you agree or disagree with the Chicago Bears potentially going after this guy, that's Maxx Crosby. According to Benjamin Albright, the NFL insider there, he said that Maxx Crosby's preferred choice would be a trade to the Chicago Bears. He was on Twitter, because I refuse to call it X, answering questions, and he stated this: Crosby would become a Bear if he had the choice. The Bears would be his preferred destination if he got to pick, although I don't know how they make the economics work there. So, and I don't know what this is. I listen, you can take it for a grain of salt. I already told you guys, we're in heavy rumor mill season. We're going to be hearing heavy rumors all up and down from top to bottom when it comes down to that. But I think the thing that we do know that's been pretty consistent is that the Las Vegas Raiders are asking for multiple first-round picks in exchange for Maxx Crosby. I do not see Ryan Poles with the stage that this team is in, having to replace linebackers, needing a edge, maybe even a center, needing a left tackle, right? Needing all these things. I don't see Ryan Poles being willing to give up multiple first-round picks for where the Bears are at right now. I know there are some Bears fans that say, you give it up to get him. And I'm like, you have to think this is why fan brain and GM brain are two very different things. As fans, we can just think in the moment. We can think in the now and just say, go out and get this guy because of the stats, because of the performance, because of all those type of things. But front offices have to think of it a little bit different. They not only have to live in the now, but they also have to live in the future, because unless you feel that a move makes you a Super Bowl favorite, heads and shoulders above them, and even then, we've seen Super Bowl favorites come crashing down because of injuries, lack of depth, things like that, right? So unless you see that giving up 2 first-round picks for where the Bears are right now is very dangerous to give up, because the Bears do still have a lot. Like I said, Tremaine Edmonds is on his way out. The only starting linebacker you may return is TJ Edwards, and he may start off the season hurt. So you have DeMarco Jackson there, right? You have 4 safeties that are all free agents. You now have to replace a starting center and a left tackle, right? So you have all of that. The Bears are not in a position right now to give up multiple first-round picks for Maxx Crosby. Now, if that asking price comes down some, maybe it's 1 first, and maybe it's a day 2 pick, maybe it's something like that. Maybe the Bears get in on it if they're able to spread that out over years. But if the Las Vegas Raiders right now, and they're asking, and they have the right to have a high asking price. We've seen the damage that Maxx Crosby does to offensive lines. We've seen how his presence alone can completely disturb an offense and a quarterback. We've seen these things, right? But Maxx Crosby wanting to be a Bear, it is what it is. We've seen the podcast with him and Caleb Williams. We've seen that these guys, how they've talked and how they have a relationship. And I've said it even then. You can tell that Maxx Crosby has a respect for Caleb Williams as a competitor, as a warrior, and as a fellow football player. But at the same time, when it comes down to it, man, the Bears are going to have to weigh this very, very diligently, and that's the part that we don't know. You're going to have to put a premium package together for Maxx Crosby. That's what you're going to have to do. And the price just may be too steep for the Chicago Bears. Now, if the Bears do put their best package together, which could include, wide receiver DJ Moore, which could the Raiders be interested in DJ Moore? Maybe, right? Could they be interested in Tremaine Edmonds? Maybe. But you're probably also going to have to include, even if they do have an interest in one or both of those players, your first-round pick in 2026. Now, if you're giving that up and you're willing, I wouldn't necessarily hate that part. But we know, and I said it after watching the Super Bowl. Everybody said it. The Bears are a consistent pass rush and defensive line away from being a Super Bowl contender. I really do think that. Now, Faves, I don't think that. But look at Maxx Crosby. Look at what he is. A 5-time Pro Bowler, right? He had 10 sacks last year, 28 tackles for a loss, 2 forced fumbles in only 15 games. So if he wants to be a Bear, I can't be mad at Ryan Poles trying to put that, and I hope that he does. I hope that Ryan Poles puts the best reasonable offer that he can put together for Maxx Crosby. If it gets him, it gets him. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I hate to tell y'all this, but I'm going to be real about it. You guys know how I am. The Bears improving their pass rush doesn't come down to just getting Trey Hendrickson or Maxx Crosby. Even the people who in the comment section want to say things like, well, draft picks aren't guaranteed to do anything. Neither is it guaranteed that if you sign a Trey Hendrickson or trade for Maxx Crosby, that you're not going to create a whole other places. It's not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in football. Nothing is. Despite the talent. Hell, they had Maxx Crosby. Were we not a better team than the Raiders last year? The Green Bay Packers traded for Micah Parsons last year. Were we not a better team than them last season? So nothing is guaranteed in football, but you have to keep a mind on every facet of the game, every aspect of how you build a team when you're making a move like that. And I just think the asking price may be too steep for the Bears, but I do hope that Ryan Poles puts together a great offer. Put together the best possible offer that you have to get to try to get Maxx Crosby and to land it. And if you don't, I know some Bears fans are going to lose their shit if you don't do it. I'm not. I'm more reasonable with it. It just wasn't meant to be. But you still have to improve this defensive line. You still have to find a new starting center. You still have to find a new starting left tackle, right? These things are still. You have to find at least one new starting safety. So all these things are still legitimate. And because of that, I'm willing to have a little bit more patience than some of the more knee-jerky Bears fans. But, it is what it is there. But that gets me to the last topic for today, and that's Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles I already came into this offseason saying that I expect Ryan Poles to be very aggressive this year. Not saying that, or very diligent, I think is the better word, more so than aggressive. Very diligent in the way that he moves this offseason, the way that he adds to this team, all those type of things, right? But now, Ryan Poles is gone from coming into an offseason where even if you looked at the left tackle, even if you said, I need to find a 1-year stopgap here because Isaac Trapillo is going to be back. You've now gone from that and the defensive line to now all the things that I listed. You got to find a new starting left tackle. You got to find a new starting center. You got to improve your defensive line by any means necessary, both the edge and the interior defensive line. You got to find another linebacker. You got to find another safety. You got all these things on your plate that you have to do and not a lot of cap space right now to get it done. Yes, restructuring is a thing. I get that. It's a thing that's there. But when we heard Ryan Poles talk about the fact that, you got to explore all options in regards to him talking about the DJ Moore trade, the Tyson Bagent trade. If the Bears can get a 3rd-round pick for Tyson Bagent, like all these things become even more important now. And this is going to be one of those off seasons where even if Ryan Poles doesn't make the big splash move, that it's going to be one of those off seasons we're going to have to take a step back afterwards and look at how the individual pieces went into things and how Ryan Poles was able to put things together to make improvements for this team. This is an important one for him. On top of, you already lost Ian Cunningham as well. Didn't get compensatory backs for that, right? So there's multiple things right now that the Bears are going to have to do to impact and not change the direction, but improve this team in the areas that they need it improved the most, right? Of course, you got guys like Trey Hendrickson out there. We've heard that the Vikings could be open to trading Jonathan Greenard, right? He's another guy that the Bears could look to pivot, right? There are some enticing offers out there for Ryan Poles to go out there and explore, and we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen, man. But for what it's worth, last year as well, Ben Johnson talked about the job that Ryan Poles has to do at the Combine. He said this: I think that's a balancing act. I think that's where Ryan and Matt Feinstein, Jeff King, those guys do a great job of keeping the big picture in mind of what we're trying to do short term and long term and the balancing act. You might have an off-wall idea that you've kind of got to talk through it of what consequences may be if you went down that road. And so that's this time of year. You're trying to, as I've been saying all day long, trying to accumulate the best 90-man roster you possibly can. We need to be as competitive as it's ever been so that we take the next step. I know Ryan and I see our current roster, the guys that are under contract, very much in the same lens, and we are totally committed to whatever it takes to get better. And that's what Ryan Poles is going to have to do. Whatever it takes by any means necessary to get better and improve this team. That's what we have to see. Ryan Poles is now in his 5th year as general manager. And now that next step from where the Bears were to where they need to get to, that is sometimes the most difficult step to take. and we got to see how Ryan Poles is going to get that done this offseason. I got faith. He earned my faith with the way that he's maneuvered. Now, let's go out there and see how he's going to execute it. Give some patience. Even if it isn't the big splash move, it doesn't mean that it's not the right move. And that's what we got to see from this Bears team. And we'll see if Ryan Poles can have another offseason where we look back on it and say, Ryan Poles cooked. Whether it's high key, whether it's low key, but Ryan Poles cooked, and give him the opportunity to do that. But that's going to do it for today's episode. But now I want to hear from you guys. Who should replace Drew Dalman at center? Would you trade multiple first-round picks for Maxx Crosby? And how confident are you in Ryan Poles and his ability to navigate this offseason? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.